Some fears, well, you can kind of just ignore them, And some nightmares, yeah, those fade away eventually too. But some fears never leave. Welcome to the walking dread.
We're going to take you on a journey into the macabre. Stories that feel so real that you start to think they're true.
And you know those stories. They're just too terrifying not to be. Joining me is our resident expert in fear and folklore, the brilliant and fearless Julia.
And tonight we're diving deep into a story that feels like it came straight from the oldest, most primal folklore.
Okay, so we've got a village, right? A village that gets ensnared in this absolutely horrifying transformation. And wouldn't you know it, it's all tied to the full moon.
Oh, and all of this stems from a pact. A desperate pact with wolves.
You know our listeners.
No.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
Always digging up these stories that get into your skin, And this one has teeth, real teeth.
Before we get too far down this dark path, make sure to follow and rate The Walking Dread. It keeps those unsettling tales coming.
Okay, Julia, let's unpack this whole Heart of the Wolf narrative. It feels timeless to me, almost like an archetype. You ever get that feeling like it's one of those stories whispered around a fire in the dead of night?
Oh, absolutely. These types of stories, they always tap into those primal fears, like our anxieties about the wild. And that feeling of losing control, like maybe even transforming into something else. And then there's that whole societal order thing.
Right, the fragility of it all.
Exactly. It's like a warning, a cautionary tale.
And what's so interesting is that our listeners, much like Jenna in the story, they're not just accepting this idea of a curse. They want to understand the why, like the underlying mechanisms of fear, not just superstition.
That's it exactly. Jenna, right. From the very beginning, she questions Old Nan. She needs to know the why behind all the fear. It's a fundamental part of how we think. We're always looking for patterns, trying to make sense of things, even when they seem completely irrational.
It's that human need to understand even our deepest fears.
And you know what? This story gives us a framework to explore that need, even though it's wrapped up in the fantastical.
And that hunger for truth, that's what pushes Jenna right into the heart of all the terror.
It does.
So the full moon rises, and suddenly the village descends into utter chaos. Doors are bolted shut, and everyone is acting so strange. Even her own father. Like his whole demeanor just shifts. It's horrifying.
It really is. It's like their whole world is shattered.
Yeah, total disruption of their reality.
There's a stage in horror that we often see, and it's that moment when the protagonist can't deny it anymore. The horror is unavoidable. Jenna sees her father change right before her eyes, and it's this visceral, undeniable signifier that everything has changed forever.
And instead of running away, she follows those cryptic instructions from the old woman, ignoring the terrified screams of the villagers. That's a brave move.
It is, but it's not recklessness. She's driven by this need to understand.
A quest for knowledge.
Exactly. She's not just scared or curious. She's compelled to confront the unknown even when everything inside her is telling her to run. It makes her a really fascinating character, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So she gets to that moonlit clearing, right? And it's not what you'd expect at all. No cursed altar or anything like that. Instead, she finds this ancient wolf's den. And there are runes there, but these runes don't speak of a plea for help. They point to a contract.
A deliberate contract.
Which flips the whole curse narrative on its head, right? It suggests that this wasn't some random supernatural event. It was a choice.
And that's where the story gets really unsettling, this idea of human desperation and the consequences that ripple through time. The runes, they signify an agreement, a decision made by the village's ancestors. And it makes you wonder what could have driven them to make such a pact.
I mean, was it famine? Some kind of threat they couldn't overcome on their own?
Yeah.
Just goes to show how fear and desperation can lead to choices with consequences we can't even begin to imagine.
Exactly. That promise of immediate strength, that feeling of survival in the face of overwhelming odds, it's intoxicating.
Like you said, it blinds you to the potential cost.
It triggers this thing psychologists call present bias. We tend to prioritize immediate rewards over future costs, even if those costs are much greater down the line. It's like those Faustian bargains we see in so many cultures, this very human tendency to focus on the now, sometimes to our own detriment.
So then Jenna encounters the she-wolf.
Right.
And it's not the monstrous beast you'd expect.
No, not at all.
There's this intelligence in its gaze.
Yeah.
And Jenna instinctively reaches out her hand in apology. It's like she's acknowledging this shared burden of the agreement, a broken pact that has impacted both her people and these wolves.
It's such a powerful moment because it disrupts that typical human versus monster story. She sees a sentient being, A creature suffering just like her people are. And that apology, it's a recognition of their shared pain, a level of empathy you just don't see in traditional horror.
And her transformation. It's not this grotesque disfigurement like the villagers. It's described as this deep connection, like her very bones are resonating with the wolf spirit.
It's like a merging, an awakening of something that was already there. A different kind of transformation. Not just a loss of self, but maybe a blending or a becoming.
The aftermath is just bleak. Her own father, the man who should be her protector, sees her as the monster. She tries to break the cycle and becomes the scapegoat.
It's a perfect example of how quickly fear can turn on someone. She represents everything they're afraid of, all their guilt and terror. And it shows how folklore and fear can shape our reality. Their fear blinds them to the truth of what she's done.
And the villagers. They're completely oblivious to their own role in all of this. They don't see that their own desperation is what led to the pact in the first place.
The external monster, Jenna, becomes a distraction. They don't have to confront their own inner demons, their own capacity for making desperate choices that have devastating consequences. It's like that saying, we have met the enemy and he is us.
Even the sounds of the forest change. The villagers hear only their own fear and the howls. They don't understand the softer, mournful response.
It isolates Jenna even further. She's become the thing they fear, and yet she's also protecting them in a way they can't even grasp. It blurs the lines between monster and savior.
So in the end, Jenna embodies the cost of their survival, a haunting reminder of the choice their ancestors made. And the real terror, it's not in the woods with her. It's still within the village. That same hunger that drove them to the wolves in the first place.
Yes, and those howls, they echo through the trees. But they're not just a threat. They're a constant reminder of the past, the price they continue to pay. The real horror isn't the wolf woman, it's their own flawed humanity.
A pact, a transformation, and a haunting consequence. It's a story that sticks with you. And to our listeners, what resonates with you the most?
Oh.
How do you see this tale in relation to your own fears and the sacrifices we sometimes have to make? What price would you pay for survival?
This story asks us to think about the nature of curses. Are they something inflicted upon us, or are they the physical embodiment of our deepest desires and fears?
If you're looking for horror that stays with you long after the story's over, make sure you follow The Walking Dread. Sweet dreams, if you can manage to get any.
Thanks for listening to The Walking Dread.